My favorite afternoons visiting the labs.
Do you hate medical research?
No, I think we need to lead the world in medical research in this country.
In fact, isn't it true, Mr. Secretary, that you would like to see more money spent on medical research?
Obviously, I'm the secretary of this department. No secretary wants to see his budget cut.
Well, one way of doing that, it seems to me, would be to stop some of the stealing.
Welcome back to American Mindset, the channel where we cut through the noise and get to the heart of what's happening in our great country. Today, we're diving into a heated exchange between Senator John Kennedy and HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. during an appropriations hearing. And let me tell you, folks, this one's a doozy. So grab your coffee, or better yet, your freedom-loving mug, and let's watch the video.
Mr. Secretary, how many employees were there at HHS when you took over?
82,000.
How many do you have today?
62,000.
Okay.
It's about the level it was in 2019, right before COVID.
Is this the first time that an institution in America has ever downsized?
I don't think so. I think private and public institutions have
Microsoft just announced that they were going to reduce their workforce by 6,000 people. You think that'll be the end of Microsoft?
Senator, we wouldn't have reduced anybody.
You think that'll be the end of Microsoft?
I don't think so, Senator.
Meta, I still call them Facebook, just announced they're going to reduce their workforce by 3,000 people. You think that'll be the end of Meta?
I imagine it will not.
Yeah. Think maybe the people at Meta know what they're doing?
I think that they do. They make a lot of money, Senator.
Do you hate NIH?
I love NIH. I grew up with NIH. I visited when I was a boy. I loved science, and those were my favorite afternoons visiting the labs.
Do you hate medical research?
No, I think we need to lead the world in medical research in this country.
In fact, isn't it true, Mr. Secretary, that you would like to see more money spent on medical research?
Obviously, I'm the secretary of this department. No secretary wants to see his budget cut.
Well, one way of doing that, it seems to me, would be to stop some of the stealing. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Let's suppose you give NIH gives a university $100 million to research, for medical research, to research a cure. And that university takes $30 million of it, doesn't spend it on the research. They use it to subsidize the rest of their university. Does that show a commitment to medical research?
No, and I mentioned before the example of Stanford, which was taking 78% in indirect costs, and we don't know what they were spending.
That's theft, isn't it?
It's not a good
in
way to
Louisiana,
spend
we call
federal
that stealing.
Taxpayer dollars.
We call that stealing. Is there any doubt in your mind that a lot of universities are taking this NIH money, which is supposed to be spent on medical research, and using it to fund other parts of their university? Is there any doubt in your mind, Bobby?
Oh, and Senator, the other people who are writing grants, like the Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, they pay 10% to 15% in indirect costs. We were paying 50, 60, 70%.
So, in fact, what you're doing is adding money to medical research.
We will be able to fund many, many, many more studies by eliminating that $9 billion, at least part of that $9 billion cost.
Okay. I want to ask you about LIHEAP. Are you familiar with this GAO report they did on LIHEAP?
I am not, Senator.
They found, they audited 7 states. They found 11,000 dead people getting LIHEAP grants. You familiar with that?
No, but that is pretty typical of many of the other programs that we're working with.
They found prisoners getting grants, didn't they? Were they using the grants to heat their jail cell? They found 1,000 federal employees getting the grants with federal salaries that greatly exceeded the income limits. They found some of those folks living in million-dollar homes. I got 18 seconds. Why do we allow highly processed foods in America?
That's a complicated question, but it's driven by profits to a food industry that is making money by poisoning American kids, and they don't do it abroad. They make the same products for Canada and for Europe that do not contain many of those chemicals.
You understand, Mr. Secretary, there's nothing you can do that's going to make many of my Democratic colleagues happy. You get that, don't you?
I do understand. I'm coming to understand that, Senator.
Yes. Thank you.
First off, Senator Kennedy starts by pointing out that HHS reduced its workforce from 82,000 employees to 62,000. That's a whopping 20,000 people cut under Secretary Kennedy's leadership. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. Big government is bloated, inefficient, and frankly, it's a drain on hardworking taxpayers like you and me. Now, when Senator Kennedy compared this to private sector downsizing, he hit the nail on the head. Microsoft and Meta, two of the biggest corporations, have reduced their workforce. And guess what? The world didn't end. So why is it so controversial when the government trims the fat? Let's be real. The private sector knows how to run efficiently. Maybe Washington should take some notes. Let's talk about NIH and medical research. Secretary Kennedy says he loves NIH, grew up visiting its labs, and wants America to lead the world in medical research. And look, I agree, America should lead the world. But here's the kicker. If you want more money for research, you've got to stop wasting what we already have. Stanford University, for example, was taking 78% of NIH grants in indirect costs. That's 78 cents of every taxpayer dollar going to God knows what, instead of actual medical research. Compare that to private organizations like the Gates Foundation, which only spend 10 to 15%. Folks, this isn't just wasteful, it's theft. Senator Kennedy called it stealing, and he's absolutely right. If you or I misuse taxpayer money like that, we'd be facing charges. But these universities, they get a free pass. Now, Secretary Kennedy claims that by eliminating $9 billion in wasteful spending, we could fund many more medical studies. And you know what? That's exactly the kind of common sense reform we need. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not just about cutting waste. It's about holding these institutions accountable. Why are we rewarding universities that misuse grants with even more money? If they can't spend it responsibly, they shouldn't be getting it in the first place. This is your hard-earned money, folks, and it's time our government stopped letting elites treat it like a slush fund. And then there's the LIHEAP program, another shining example of government mismanagement. The GAO audit found 11,000 dead people getting grants. Yes, you heard that right, dead people. Oh, and let's not forget prisoners. Were they using the grants to heat their jail cells? I mean, come on. But it gets even crazier. 1,000 federal employees with six-figure salaries were caught receiving these heating assistance grants. Some of them were living in million-dollar homes while collecting taxpayer-funded benefits meant for struggling families. Folks, this isn't just incompetence, it's corruption. Plain and simple. And yet, somehow, the left wants us to believe the government needs more power and more money. Give me a break. Now let's talk about the food industry. Senator Kennedy brought up a powerful point. Highly processed foods are poisoning our kids. And why? Because it's profitable. These companies are pumping our food full of chemicals that aren't even legal in Canada or Europe. They make healthier versions of the same products for other countries. But here in America, it's all about the bottom line. This is what happens when we let corporations run wild without any accountability. And yet, the left thinks the solution is more regulation. No, The solution is transparency and empowering parents to make better choices for their families. We need to put America's health before corporate profits. Finally, Senator Kennedy wrapped up by pointing out something we all know to be true. No matter what Secretary Kennedy does, the Democrats will never be satisfied. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about fixing problems. It's about playing politics. But here's the thing. The American people are waking up. We see the waste, the fraud, and the corruption. And we're not going to stand for it anymore. It's time to demand accountability from our government, whether it's NIH grants, LIHEAP fraud, or the food industry poisoning our kids. This is our country, and it's time we take it back. All right, patriots, that's all for today. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to American Mindset for more no-nonsense takes on the issues that matter most. And don't forget to leave a comment below. What do you think about Senator Kennedy's points? Do you agree we need more accountability in government? Let me know your thoughts. Remember, folks, stay informed, stay vigilant, and, as always, keep that American spirit alive. Until next time, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.